If you hear any noises, my dog is here. Also, I just realized that I don't have a voice. Hey guys, my name is Victoria, welcome back to my channel. I'm finally sitting in my chair again. I don't know, I think it's been 2 weeks for you guys, but it's been, okay, it's been 3 weeks for me because I had to produce some videos before I left for the city. I hope you watched the vlog. If you haven't, I'm gonna put it down below. Why am I starting advertising my other videos in the beginning of this video? I don't know. Today we're going to finally have the June wrap up. I know it's a bit late. Exams are starting soon and I have lots... Thank you, Hobie. Exams are starting soon and I have lots of things to do. So I hope this video won't be too long. Let's talk about the books that I read in June. Now, I have made a video all about Pride books. About books that I have read, about books that I wanted to read. And I sadly have to tell you that I was not able to read a bunch of them, which is quite unfortunate because I really wanted to, but this is how it goes. So let's talk about the 7 books I read this month. The first 2 books I read were both by Holly Jackson. The first one is A Good Girl's Guide to Murder and the second one is Good Girl, Bad Blood, the second part in this trilogy, which I found out later. So let's talk about the first one, A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. I listened to both of these books on BookBeat. I was surprised because I really liked this book. I think in retrospect I would give it 4 stars. So let's talk about what this is about. This book is about Pippa Fitz-Amobi. Let's just call it Pippa. Pippa. Yeah, I got it. I'm just going to read you the summary because I'm not good at summarizing stuff. The case is closed. 5 years ago, schoolgirl Andy Bell was murdered by Sel Singh. The police know he did it, everyone in town knows it, but having grown up in the same small town that was consumed by the crime, Pippa Fitz-Amobi isn't so sure. When she chooses the case as the topic for a final project, in high school by the way, she starts to uncover secrets that someone in town desperately wants to stay hidden. And if the real killer is out there, how far will they go to keep Pip from the truth? So this reminded me so much of Pretty Little Liars season 1, season 2 kind of. So a pretty popular girl goes missing. People are kind of afraid of her, but people also say she's nice, so this kind of ambivalence in there. It reminded me very much of Alison De Laurentiis. If you haven't seen the show, it's the first episode, so I don't think I'm spoiling anything here. So that was what I was reminded of. The whole finding out and really getting into that topic, so Pippa doing research, contacting people from the past, it was all just very interesting and I found myself really wanting to listen to this book every single day, and I think I finished it in the matter of like 3 days, which is a lot considering that it's like 10 hours. But I was a bit worried because this is kind of very young adult, high school setting, not my favorite kind of setting, but somehow I always get back to that. But I was really surprised of how thrilling it was and how I was anticipating the next thing that would happen. So what I also loved was the audiobook because first of all you have different characters, so different speakers for different characters, which I loved. And since she's doing all this research for a paper, she's recording these interviews that she has with other people, and these interviews actually sound like interviews when you listen to the audiobook, at least the one that I listened to, and I really loved this. I did not anticipate one thing that would be a spoiler, but read the trigger warnings before. There are some hard topics, especially towards the end, and I did not anticipate the plot twist. I believe there were 2 plot twists at least. The first one I really liked. The first one was like, oh my god, holy shit. Although I kind of suspected it, so you could call it predictable. If you're like very used to reading thrillers and used to reading detective stories, you might have figured it out very early on, who knows. I was surprised finding out what happened. There were actually multiple plot twists and I did not like the last one, sadly. I was a bit disappointed by that. But other than that, I really liked this book. And yeah, I don't think I would have like bought it at the bookstore and actually like read it, but it was a great listen. The next one I listened to, as I said, is Good Girl, Bad Blood. I do not like the title, by the way. I think it's a bit, yeah, I don't like it. This is set, I think, a couple of months or a year after Pippa kind of solved the crime or solved the story from back then. To read you the summary, Pip Fitz-Amobi is not a detective anymore. With the help of Ravi Singh, she released a true crime podcast about the murder case they solved together last year. The podcast has gone viral, yet Pip insists her investigating days are behind her. But she will have to break that promise when someone she knows goes missing. Jamie Reynolds has disappeared, but the police won't do anything about it. If they won't look for Jamie, then Pip will, uncovering more of her town's dark secrets along the way, and this time everyone is listening. But will she find him before it's too late? I should mention that throughout the investigation of the first book and also the second book, Pippa puts herself in danger, and that's kind of her turmoil going into the second book. Like, she wants to do something but wants to keep her and her family safe considering the things that happened in the first one. So that was very thrilling as well. I did not like the second book as much as I liked the first one. I gave this, I think, 3.5 stars, and I gotta be honest, I forgot how it ended. And it's just been a month. What I remember is that while I was listening, I was not as enthusiastic about the book that I was about the first one, but it was still enjoyable to listen to. The audiobook was again very great. I liked the dynamic between Ravi and Pip. I liked how they supported each other. What I don't like in books is when the main character, especially in continuation of a story, when things just go viral. I don't know if it's because I like books where the internet and all that stuff is not that important or not really part of the story, but I just think it's really weird that in so many books there's like the main character has a viral internet moment, which I don't think is that realistic. So the podcast going absolutely viral, people going feral about this, people wanting more and more and more in season 2 and stuff. It's like, I don't know, I get it, of course, it's a story, it's fiction, it's not realistic at all and stuff, but I'm not the biggest fan of that. But maybe that's because I like the stories where the internet is not a very big contributor to the story. Anyway, let's continue with another audiobook that I listened to, which is House of Hollow by Crystal Sutherland. I gave this book 3.75 stars. I've wanted to read this for a very long time. Let's read you the summary. Iris Hollow and her 2 older sisters are unquestionably strange. Ever since they disappeared on a suburban street in Scotland as children, only to return a month later with no memory of what happened to them, odd, eerie occurrences seem to follow in their wake. And they're changing. First their dark hair turned white, then their blue eyes slowly turned black. They have insatiable appetites yet never gain weight. People find them disturbingly intoxicating, unbearably beautiful, and inexplicably dangerous. But now, 10 years later, 17-year-old Iris Hollow is doing all she can to fit in and graduate high school on time. Something her 2 famously glamorous, globe-trotting older sisters, Gray and Vivi, never managed to do. But when Gray goes missing without a trace, leaving behind bizarre clues as to what might have happened, Iris and Vivi are left to trace her last few days. They aren't the only ones looking for her, though. As they brush against the supernatural, they realize that the story they've been told about their past is unraveling, and the world that returned them seemingly unharmed 10 years ago might just be calling them home. This is very spoilery. I gotta be honest, I think the summary is a bit too much. When I first listened to this book, I was sure I was going to buy it. I was enthralled by the writing. I thought it was so pretty. I was just happy to finally be listening to a book that is also, I always want to say lyrically rich, but you know, I think you get what I'm saying. Because so many books that are set in high school or whatever that I listen to just don't have the nicest way or style of writing. So I really liked that. And I liked the beginning of the story. I liked getting to know the sisters. I liked getting to know Iris. It's a bit typical, it's a bit stereotypical. So Iris is this like a bit of a wallflower type. She's still utterly beautiful, but of course not as much as her sisters. So Gray is a supermodel. She's insanely rich, also so viral, so famous on the internet. I didn't like that part. I felt like it took some of the magic away from the first few minutes of listening to it, but anyway. And Vivi is the exact opposite. She has a buzz cut and tattoos and piercings, and I like that, obviously. I like that the sisters were so different. I have 2 sisters, so I was kind of comparing us to the sisters, and I just think it's funny because my sisters and I obviously are different, but there are essentials that we all share, and this is something that these 3 do as well. So that was nice. I loved reading about the sisterly bond, which was the most important aspect of the book. But again, Iris is a bit like wallflower typey, while her sisters are insanely, one charismatic, one a supermodel, and one like a rabble kind of type. It was a bit, you know, on the nose. But let's get into the story. The plot in the beginning, actually throughout the book, I thought, this is really interesting, but then the ending fell so flat for me, and that's why I gave it 3.75 stars, 3.5 stars, because I thought the ending was so rushed, first of all, and not really well explained. So this kind of second world, it was kind of spoilery in the summary anyway, so this place where they go, or where they have gone for a month, 10 years before the story is set. I wanted more information about that. When I finished the book, I was like, okay, this all happened, but I don't really have an explanation what's going to happen now. And I see the purpose of doing that. I see it, I definitely do. But I was still a bit disappointed because it was very interesting. And I wanted more information. Not only because it didn't feel like, oh yeah, this is like open ending. It really just felt rushed, and it felt like the author didn't really know what to do with that now. And I've created this world, I created this this thing, and now I don't really know how to solve it, so let's just get out of it. So that was a bit unfortunate, I gotta say. I like the book still, and I recommend it if you like aesthetically pleasing, gory horror books. I would recommend it to fans of Hannibal, for example, the show. I'm sorry, I said in my last video that I did in this year I would not talk about Hannibal again, but here I am. The next book I finished was I Kissed Shara Wheeler, or Shara, I don't know, by Casey McQuiston. I gave this book, I didn't even give it stars. I think I would say, 2.75, 3 stars. I did not like it that much, but I'm gonna tell you all about it. This was a book on my TBR for this year as well, because I saw it last year when it was first announced, and I was like, oh, this sounds really interesting. By the way, I read a physical copy of this, because, you know, most of my books I listen to. I first of all loved the cover because it's green, and this girl looked also very much like Alison De Laurentiis. And this is also what it reminded me of, but let's talk about the plot. So, I think I talked about this book in 3 different videos. Chloe Green is so close to winning. She spent the 4 years since her mom's moved her from Southern California to Alabama for high school, dodging gossipy classmates and the puritanical administration of Willow Grove Christian Academy. It might happen that my dog is going to bark, my mom's not home, and that always upsets her. The goal that's kept her going, winning valedictorian. Her only rival, prom queen Shara Wheeler, the principal's perfect progeny. But a month before graduation, Shara kisses Chloe and vanishes. On a furious hunt for answers, Chloe discovered she's not the only one Shara kissed. There's also Smith, Shara's longtime quarterback sweetheart, and Rory, Shara's bad boy neighbor with a crush. The 3 have nothing in common except Shara and the annoyingly cryptic notes she left behind. But together they must untangle Shara's trail of clues to find her. It'll be worth it if Chloe can drag Shara back before graduation to beat her fair and square. I gotta be honest, the plot didn't sound that interesting to me. Still wanted to read it because I read Red, White and Royal Blue. I loved it. I also read One Last Stop. I also liked that book. And I thought, okay, let's get into that. It's set in high school and you see it when you read it. First of all, really did not like the writing. I, in fact, really disliked it. This is set in 2020, 2021, I think, or 2022 even. And I don't know why people think, I mean, Casey McQuiston is a very young author, I thought. I don't know why some authors think that people in high school speak like that. Because I find myself, I hate the word cringing. I really do. I think it's shitty to call something cringe that other people might like to make them feel bad about it. I always hated that. I do not like this at all. But this really made my skin crawl. It made me, like, I hated it at some parts when everything was so overly exaggerated and overly hyperbolized. And I was like, no teenager talks like that, especially not people about to graduate, like almost young adults. I was like, why would you write this? This is weird. This is really weird. Let's look for the scene that I mean. Just to give you an example of how intense this like speech, over explanation and such weird explanation and description sounds like, because here I got it. The description is what's annoying to me the most, because when new characters are introduced, the way that they are described is just weird. Why would you describe them like that? For me, it really wasn't funny. It wasn't, oh, that's so original. I can totally know the character now. It was very superficial. And I also did not like the main character. I did not like Chloe. But I'm gonna read you the part which I didn't like. So, Chloe has a friend, Georgia, and she works in a bookstore. And I think in the bookstore of her parents, of her dad. I'm just gonna read you. While Georgia rereads Regency classics, Chloe's favorite stories are the ones where the headstrong young woman on a cinematic journey to master her powers falls for the monster who's been antagonizing her all along. So far so good, it's not bad. Georgia knows this, so she curates a stack of books behind the counter for Chloe and adds it to it every time they get something Chloe might like. This line is the one that I hate the most. She affectionately calls it Chloe's Monster Fucker collection. No. I'm sorry. No. If people like this, of course it's fine. This is just my personal opinion. But I hate writing like that. I don't even mind insults or like such crass words. Like, that's not what I mean. But just reading it in a book, I hated it. It makes it sound so ridiculous, you know, when it's in actuality just, you know, some people like reading stories that have spice or, let's say, explicit content, and this just makes it sound so ridiculous and weird and I don't know, that's just my opinion. It's just something that I don't like reading in books, and this sadly continued throughout the entirety of the book. I did not like the writing style at all, which was weird because I know that there were some moments in Red, White, and Royal Blue which I did not like. That continued also in One Last Stop by Casey McQuiston, so I guess I'm just not the biggest fan of McQuiston's writing. But for some reason, I love the characters in Red, White, and Royal Blue. All of them. And I barely like characters in here. Or actually, I liked some of the characters except for Chloe and except for Shara. I thought that the entire story and the plot line of them having this rivalry, so stereotypical, I did not like it. Like enemies to lovers, I could not root for them. I did not feel the chemistry. I was just like, why? Why? Where's the attraction? Why? This is just because they continuously try to put each other down and be better than the other, and I'm like, this is not only toxic, but it's also not enticing and not, I don't know, making me want them to be together. And I'm the last one to say, oh yeah, just healthy relationships are fun to read. Like, absolutely not. This can be so fun to read, and the dynamic between those types of people. But for them, I just felt like this is just kind of ridiculous. Like, where's the sense? Where's the reason? I did not feel like they were a good match. Chloe, I guess, is just a person that I would definitely not be friends with. That also is a thing in the book. She's very flawed, so that's what I liked. And she later learns, but very self-absorbed, in my opinion. Not the most nuanced character. I felt like she continued to judge people all over. When she got close to people, she still continued to judge them. I don't want to spoil too much, but in the end, when there's a good thing happening and she gets together with people, all of this is suddenly gone, and I just felt weird all over. Smith and Rory I liked, and I hate that I liked their connection again more than Shara and Chloe's. The whole charade of Shara and then finding the clues, that kept me reading actually. And also the aspect of religion. It might be stereotypical, I don't know that much about it, so I'm absolutely not going to judge it. But this school is very much, girls aren't allowed to do anything, aren't allowed to wear anything else than what is, you know, appropriate. No nail polish, no nothing. Pretty much praying all the time. And I like that that was included, since it is a very important topic, especially in America. I do not live in America, I live in Germany. I'm not that religious. I grew up religious, I'm Protestant. I'm not going to talk about belief now and what I believe, but I just think it's sad that, especially in America, or also in so many other countries, including here in Germany as well, you can see it with Catholicism, that it's used to oppress people, that it's used to hate on people and to exclude people and to be intolerant, and that's what I absolutely hate, and I think it's horrible. And I bet if there's a God, which I'm not going to, you know, whatever one of people believe, I just think it's sad that something like this was used and is continuously used to hate on people, and I don't think that they would condone it. I don't think they would like that. So why would you do that? If religion, if the church is supposed to be a place of coming together and then being together, believing in one thing, being whatever, why would you think that such a being who is all loving and all encompassing and omniscient and all that, why would you think that they would care who people love, what color their skin have? But that's a different topic. This is getting too philosophical or too, I don't know, I don't even want to talk about it, but this is a topic in the book. Yeah, I guess the whole religion part is not really dealt with. It's just about standing up and being pissed about the system, which I do get, definitely. So yeah, overall, not my favorite book. There were some nice parts. I liked the ending. I liked some connections the characters had. I liked that at least at some point Chloe was reflecting on her own problems and flaws and also apologizing, but wasn't my favorite. Okay, the next book I read, Out of the Blue by Jason June. I gave this book 3 stars, or I could give it 3.5. I don't even know. Let's read you the summary. Crest is not excited to be on their journey. The month-long sojourn on land all teen merfolk must undergo. The rules are simple. Help a human within 1 moon cycle and return to Pacifica to become an elder, or fail and remain stuck on land forever. Crest is eager to get their journey over and done with. Humans are disgusting. They've polluted the planet so much that there's a floating island of trash that's literally the size of a country. In Los Angeles, with a human body and a new name, Crest meets Sean, a human lifeguard whose boyfriend has recently dumped him. Crest agrees to help Sean make his ex jealous and win him back. But as the two spend more time together and Crest's perspective on humans begin to change, they'll soon be torn between 2 worlds. And fake dating just might lead to real feelings. Overall, I like the connection. I like the amount of representation, I guess. So when it comes to the LGBTQ community, I think it was well represented. There was non-binary representation, which I liked. I would like an opinion of non-binary people reading this book. It introduced a concept of a world where, for example, the mer people in this case, there is just no gender. That doesn't exist. Let's talk about the characters. I like the connection. They're individual characters. I think they had some very lovely banter, and the way that they met and also strengthened then their connection was nice. It was a pretty easy novel to read and also set up fundamental questions because Crest wants to go back into the ocean. That's their home, and then they meet Sean and they're pretty confused now on what to do because, you know, it's one human compared to their entire life that happened or that they lived or live in the ocean. So that was the biggest challenge for these characters, but also it had the misunderstanding trope towards the end, which I did not like. It had a very, very weird open ending, I gotta say. Although I could not have given it a better ending. I could not have said, okay, it's better they do this, it's better they do that. I could not have done that. So although I think the ending was a bit rushed, and although I think the ending could have been a bit more detailed, a bit more thought out, I think in the end it was a good solution. What I also liked was the presentation of different bodies. So Crest is a very, very slim person, and Sean is a heavier guy, I guess, which you don't read a lot about, especially when you read novels where the main character, for example, is a girl and it's about a straight romance, straight relationship. You often have very slim characters or very, I guess, nicely built characters. So characters that are built for society standards. So I like that was not included in the book. There was some spice in there, so if you do not like this at all, you might not like the book. But it was written really prettily. It also had prettily, do you say that? I don't know. But it had very nice scenes, very nice moments. I think the writing was cute, was good, and the audiobook had 2 speakers, which I liked. The next book I read was a memoir. I gave this 4 stars, and this is Over the Top, A Raw Journey to Self-Love by Jonathan Van Ness. From looking at the title, I would not have read it, gotta be honest. A Raw Journey to Self-Love, it feels like this is an advice-giving book, and I hate that with the utmost passion. Self-help books, I rarely gravitate towards, or if I ever, but I do like Jonathan Van Ness. I really, really love them in Queer Eye. I follow her on Instagram. They go by all pronouns, by the way. I wanted to read his story and I wanted to find out what made Jonathan kind of Jonathan, and it was really interesting to listen to. If you have no idea who Jonathan Van Ness is, and if you have no idea what Queer Eye is, Google it for a quick second and then maybe come back. You know how long my videos are, you do not want me to get into that. So let's give you the summary. Who gave Jonathan Van Ness permission to be the radiant human he is today? No one, honey. The truth is, it hasn't always been gorgeous for this beacon of positivity and joy. By the way, this is exactly how this book is written. Before they stole our hearts, as the grooming and self-care expert on Netflix's hit show Queer Eye, Jonathan was growing up in a small Midwestern town that didn't understand why she was so over the top. From choreographed carpet figure skating routines to the unavoidable fact that she was just so gay. Jonathan was an easy target and endured years of judgment, ridicule, and trauma, yet none of it crushed his uniquely effervescent spirit. This summary does not use all the pronouns that Jonathan goes by, so I changed it up while reading it. So as you saw, and as I already said, this book is written in the way that Jonathan talks, and they also read the audiobook. So I listened to this as well, and it was a joy to listen to her. I just like it. It's fun, it's uplifting, without taking the seriousness out of the story or out of this memoir. What I really liked was the outline of the book. Jonathan was obsessed with figure skating. I think still is. And they loved it as a kid, and she always performed little things. She wanted to do that. He watched the Olympics and all that. It's just really lovely. That's how the book starts, which also shows another side of Jonathan, because I knew them from Queer Eye, where they are an expert, as I said, on styling and hair and self-care, all around that. But that was an aspect I wasn't clued in, and now I am, so that was nice, seeing different perspectives. And that's what's great about autobiographies. You find out so much about the person that you only see on screen or you only know from the internet. I love her as a personality. I think they are so just lovely. I just think they're lovely, and finding out what he had to deal with growing up is really hard. So please check the trigger warnings. This is a book about a kid who grew up as Jack, and although he was raised by a mother who always loved her and always accepted them the way that he just is, obviously there are going to be people who just won't. Also facing money problems, health problems. HIV and AIDS is, by the way, discussed, grief and death, so please be aware of that. Drug abuse is discussed, so if you're sensitive to that, this book might not be for you if you're interested. But listening to it, it's just the way that you feel when you find out more about a character and when you find out dark things. Not character, a person. And that was really interesting to read, and I'm really happy for Jonathan that they're able to have this platform and speak about it and not be afraid of that. And so far I have heard only good things about her. And yeah, I like listening to this story. Let's continue. This was, I think, one of the first memoirs and autobiographies I listened to. Sorry about my dog. We can continue. My mom's back home and my dogs are quiet. That's good. So let's talk about the last book I read in June. I read Briefly a Delicious Life by Nell Stevens, and I'm gonna give you the summary. In 1473, 14-year-old Blanca dies in a hilltop monastery in Mallorca. Nearly 400 years later, when George Sand, her 2 children, and her lover Frédéric Chopin arrive in the village, Blanca is still there. A spirited, funny, righteous ghost, she's been hanging around at the monastery since her accidental death, spying on the monks and the townspeople and keeping track of her descendants. Blanca is enchanted the moment she sees George, and the magical novel unfolds a story of deeply felt, unrequited longing, the impossible love of a teenage ghost for a woman who can't see her and doesn't know she exists. As George and Chopin, who wear their unconventionality, in George's case, literally on their sleeves, find themselves in deepening trouble in the provincial 19th century villages, Blanca watches helplessly and reflects on the circumstances of her own death, which involves an ill-advised love affair with a monk in training. This is a lot, I know. I gave this book 3.5 stars, mainly for the writing. I thought the beginning was beautiful. I thought I was in for a treat, and for a long time I was. I thought it was very intriguing, enticing. George Sand and Chopin. I have not read anything by George Sand yet, but I have recently acquired a book written by her of letters. I think it's a collection of letters, which I'm really excited to read. The outline of the plot I liked. The actual execution, I actually am not so sure about. I felt like this book lacked plot. Obviously there's Blanca. Almost everything is told by her perspective, although there are some scenes or chapters that are written from George Sand's perspective, for example. It didn't really have a goal that did not exist, because it wasn't a conventional love story that just doesn't exist, as the summary already indicates, because Blanca is a ghost. What was a bit weird is that the ghost, or that Blanca, died at 14. So she still looks like she's 14. I could not for the life of me envision that or imagine that. It was really weird, considering that she is actually old, she's wise, so thinking that that person looks like a 14-year-old is just really weird to envision. And also that she's in love with George, who is an adult, as the summary already says. That is a bit weird, I guess. And there was also a bit of a lack of consent. because this whole book explores the idea of ghosts living with us and just living in our houses, or we live in their houses, who knows, and they just go on with their lives as we do, or they just watch us while we live. The entire book kind of discusses the idea of that. I felt like it was very problematic at times. My dog is snoring because Blanca can actually go into other people's heads. Blanca does not possess the people, but she is able to go into their heads and feel what they feel and see what they see. And it's at some parts weird, and especially if there were explicit parts of the story. So yeah, it lacked in plot, it lacked in purpose, I guess. I like the exploration of the idea. I just wish that maybe Blanca would not look like a 14-year-old when she sounds like a very wise, mature woman, which she is, but she still looks like a 14-year-old. It's a bit complicated. What I also really liked was the aspect of Blanca's past, which honestly I would have enjoyed a story about her without the other aspect, without George, and without, you know, we jump in time to when Blanca was growing up, when she was first falling in love and stuff, and that story was also very disturbing. Very disturbing. Please check the trigger warnings. It wasn't as graphic and gross, but just the things that Blanca experiences so early on in her life were just sometimes really horrifying. I don't know if I missed it, but I don't know how she died. I don't know if that comes out in the book. Maybe it does. Maybe I overheard it. I was kind of in a weird place when I read this book because so many things were happening at the same time. But overall, I like the writing, especially in the beginning, but the story is not my favorite, I think. It also didn't feel like a ghost story. The colors that I had in my head while I was listening to the book were very summery, very like yellow, warm tones, blue of the ocean. So very welcoming colors, I'd say, not what you usually associate with ghost stories, but it really didn't feel like that. It felt like Blanca was a part of the family for some time while they lived there, but then you have to pull back and realize, oh, she's actually a ghost just watching them creepily and getting into their heads. So that's kind of weird. But yeah, this is the last book I read. I don't even know what was the highlight of the month. Gotta say, I don't think I've read that many great, amazing books this month or in the last few months. Maybe it's because all the books that I think are going to be very interesting, I want to take my time with, that I don't have currently, that I can't find for some reason. I think, I gotta be honest, Over the Top by Jonathan Van Ness. I really like the autobiography. I like listening to it. And A Good Girl's Guide to Murder were my favorites this month. Let me know what your favorites were. Let me know what you read this month, how many books you read, what was maybe disappointing, what was negatively or positively surprising to you. And as always, your favorite book of the month, or your favorite book that you've read recently. This is it. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Make sure to stay for bloopers, as always. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet, and don't forget to click the little bell next to the subscription button to never miss an upload. Update you guys on everything on my social media. And I also want to say that I might not be able to upload twice in the upcoming weeks because exams are starting in 3 weeks, and yeah, so I'm probably going to film some study videos if you want that. I will also film 3 videos today, so there will be videos, but I don't know if I can make it up to 2 videos a week. As always, check my social media for that. If you want to read some of my poetry, you can also go to my poetry account on Instagram. There are some snippets of it. All my social media is linked down below, including the links that you can use to educate yourself on the matter of the war happening in Ukraine, or even donate to reliable and good causes. And if you have any, please leave them in the comments. Okay, this is it. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I hope you have a wonderful day, and hopefully see you in my next video. Bye! She spent the 4 years since her mom's moved. She spent her... Oh. With the help of Ravi Singh, she released a true crime unbearably beautiful and inexplicably Scheiße. Fuck, now I've said it too often, now I can't say it anymore. But other than that, I really I rarely gravitates to I rarely The case is closed. 5 years ago, schoolgirl. The case is closed. 5 years ago, Gaga. Why can't I speak? Crest agrees to help. Excuse me? Crest, shh. Be pretty. This book is about the girl. This book is about Pippa Fitz-M. This book is about Pippa. This book is about Pippa Fett. Ruby. Including when you don't have that much time. Ruby, kannst du jetzt mal aufhören? This book is about Pippa Fitz. This book is about Pippa Fitz-Amobi, or let's just call it Pippa. This book is about Pippa Fitz-Amobi. She spent the 4 years since her she's also Mira, nicht jetzt anfangen. I'm out of breath. Why am I out of breath? Okay, bye.